They called it the Galactic Tribunal of Truth, a place where stars were witnesses and silence had weight. 23 alien species sat in floating thrones of light, judging a single being who stood alone in the center of a chamber the size of a moon. His name was Elias Core. Human. Engineer. Accused of planetary annihilation. The trial had already lasted 7 cycles. The verdict was inevitable. The evidence undeniable. But Elias had not said a single word. Not until now. When the final gavel of plasma struck, the Grand Arbiter of the Corethian Order rose from her crystalline throne. Her voice shimmered through the air like static on a dying radio. Human, you stand accused of collapsing the gravity core of Narrow 9, resulting in the death of 10 billion souls. Do you understand the charges? Elias raised his head slowly. He was the only warm-blooded creature in that entire hall. His breath fogged the air. His voice came out calm, almost too calm. I do. The Arbiter's eyes, like molten mercury, glared down. Then state your plea. Elias smiled faintly. I don't plead, he said. I demonstrate. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The word demonstrate echoed in 100 alien tongues, some as whispers, others as thunder. One of the smaller judges, a scaled being from the 5th arm of Vexner, clicked its mandibles in disgust. This is mockery. The human toys with us even now. Elias ignored them. He reached into the pocket of his worn black coat and placed a small, cube-shaped device onto the marble floor. The cube shimmered with faint gravity waves. The moment it touched the surface, the entire courtroom vibrated. The Arbiter's tone sharpened. What is that? Elias glanced up. My lawyer, he said. For the first time in centuries, the Grand Arbiter faltered. Your, what? Elias looked her straight in the eye. Gravity, he said. It defends me better than words ever could. The aliens murmured louder. Some laughed. Some hissed. The prosecutor, a tall, elegant creature of translucent blue flesh, rose. You mock this court with semantics and human arrogance. The evidence is clear, your design destabilized the core. The planet folded into itself like paper. We recovered the fragments. Elias stepped forward. You recovered what was left after your extraction protocols mined its orbit into imbalance. Tell me, did you ever bother to calculate the gravitational gradient drift over the last millennium? The prosecutor's voice wavered. Irrelevant. The human built the core stabilizer. Elias nodded slowly. Yes, I did. And you used it without permission. You turned it on in violation of every safety parameter I encoded. You tried to bend gravity itself into serving your greed. A hush spread across the hall. The Grand Arbiter leaned forward. You claim we caused the collapse? Elias met her gaze. No. I claim you caused it the moment you thought you could own gravity. For a brief moment, no one spoke. The silence was deeper than vacuum. Then the Arbiter laughed, a sound like glass cracking under pressure. Gravity is a force, human. It does not take sides. Elias smirked. Then you haven't been paying attention. He walked toward the cube and tapped its surface. A holographic display burst open, blue light filling the chamber with swirling orbits, equations, and timelines. Planets, stars, and energy streams danced before them like cosmic puppets. This, Elias said, pointing, is Narrow 9 before you began siphoning its stellar mass. Perfect balance. Self-stabilizing field. Then you introduced artificial extraction, removing plasma mass faster than orbit correction could compensate. You violated Newton's law on a planetary scale. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You pulled from the planet, and the planet pulled back. The room trembled. The aliens looked around uneasily. Even the holograms seemed to quiver. "Impossible," said the prosecutor. "The mass variance was within tolerance." Elias laughed softly. "Tolerance. That word killed 10 billion people. Gravity doesn't care about tolerance. It only cares about balance." He turned to the judges, his voice calm yet heavy with purpose. "You think I destroyed your world. But all I did was let it do what it wanted to do from the beginning, collapse back into equilibrium." The arbiter slammed her gavel. "You speak blasphemy." Elias' eyes burned. "No, I speak truth. You built temples in space, floating courts, thinking you were above the laws that made your sons burn. But tell me, what happens when arrogance meets the constant pull of the universe?" The cube pulsed again. Gravity waves rolled across the chamber, bending light. Several of the smaller species gasped as their bodies lifted inches off the floor. Shields flickered. Documents and data scrolls floated upward, dancing in the distortion. Elias looked around slowly. "Exhibit A, Your Honor," he said. "Newton's third law." The arbiter shouted, "Deactivate that device." "No," Elias said, voice now a razor's edge. "You wanted to understand destruction. Let me educate you." He increased the field strength. The air bent. The distant stars outside the crystal dome twisted into rings. Every being in the room felt their own mass tug toward the cube, gently, firmly, unavoidably. "This is gravity," Elias said. "The first and last law of existence. You pull too hard, it pulls back harder. You strip a planet of its heart, it collapses to remind you who's in charge." The arbiter struggled to maintain composure. "You mean to threaten the tribunal?" Elias looked almost sad. "No. I mean to remind it. You are not gods. You are subjects to the same law that binds quarks and black holes. You don't get to write it. You don't get to repeal it. You only get to respect it." For a long moment, only the hum of the gravity cube filled the room. The prosecutor's eyes flickered between fear and rage. "What do you hope to achieve, human? You cannot undo what has been done." Elias turned off the device. The chamber went still. "I'm not here to undo," he said. "I'm here to make you understand." He looked at them all, 23 species, each claiming moral superiority, each living in denial of the universal constant that ruled them all. "You called this the tribunal of truth," he said quietly. "But truth isn't spoken in courts. It's written in physics. You killed a planet by ignoring the first line of that law book." The arbiter's voice cracked slightly. "And what line is that?" Elias met her eyes. "That nothing falls forever unless you let it." The chamber was silent again. Some of the judges looked away. Others stared at him as if seeing a ghost. Then Elias' tone softened. "When I built the stabilizer, I thought I was helping you. I thought science could unite us, humans and your kind. But the more I watched, the more I saw the same mistake repeated across galaxies, civilizations pretending they could manipulate the universe without consequence. And every time, the universe reminds them otherwise." He picked up the cube. It shrank back into his palm like a dying ember. "You wanted mercy, arbiter," he said. "But mercy isn't mine to give. It belongs to gravity, and gravity doesn't negotiate." The Grand Arbiter leaned back slowly, her glow dimming. "Then what are you suggesting, human?" That we submit to your science? Elias smiled faintly. Not my science. Your reality. He turned toward the exit. Trials over. Verdicts already been written in the orbit of a dead planet. The guards moved to stop him. The arbiter raised her hand. Let him go, she whispered. Elias paused at the door. One more thing, he said, glancing over his shoulder. If you ever want to understand justice, don't build more courts. Build balance. That's all gravity ever wanted. Then he walked out. The chamber stayed silent long after he was gone. Outside, through the translucent walls of the orbital station, the remains of Narrow 9 drifted like glittering dust around a pale white sun. The tribunal members watched in silence as fragments of continents and oceans formed rings, perfect, symmetrical, endless. One of the younger judges spoke, voice trembling. He was right. The arbiter didn't reply. She simply watched the debris rotate. No, she said at last. He was inevitable. Hours later, as the tribunal adjourned, an alert echoed through the network. A gravitational anomaly had been detected near the station, a micro-singularity, perfectly stable, hovering in synchronous orbit. Inside its event horizon, faintly glowing, was a single object, a human cube, pulsing once every second, like a heartbeat. They called for scientists, priests, philosophers. None could explain it. The readings showed the singularity wasn't consuming matter, it was preserving it. Holding balance. And every time it pulsed, the tribunal walls trembled, as if the universe itself were whispering the same verdict again and again. Balance. 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 Centuries later, the Galactic Tribunal would dissolve. Empires would fall, species would evolve, and the story of the human who brought a planet to trial would become legend. Some called him a murderer. Others, a philosopher. A few even worshipped him, the human who had spoken to gravity and lived. But on a forgotten space station orbiting the white sun, the cube still pulsed in silence, keeping perfect time with the turning of the stars. And if one listened closely, through the hum of distant galaxies, one might still hear his voice, calm, defiant, eternal. Every action, he had said, has an equal and opposite reaction. They called him a destroyer. But the universe knew better. He was its reminder.